So buying a home in today's economy is incredibly hard to do. You have to save up a lot of money. You have to jump through a lot of different hoops in order to get qualified. It's just one of those things that if you're early on in the process, it's going to start to feel like it's totally impossible to do. And in reality, as long as you follow a few different steps, it's not that hard to do. You're just going to need to be ready to take on a little bit of extra on your part. Now, as far as down payments go for houses, you're probably going to be landing at that 3 to 5% down payment if you're using a regular retail loan. And when I say retail loan, I mean FHA, VA, or conventional. If you're not familiar with the different types of loans, there are other videos that go further in depth that can explain it super well, because I'm just a realtor. I'm not really the person who handles the lending side of things. I have a pretty good overhead view of what each of the loans do and how they work, but a lender is going to be able to explain them in depth a lot better than I can. Now, there's one myth when it comes to buying a home that a lot of people don't realize, and they think you need to put 20% down on a house, and that's not entirely true. Like I said, a lot of the retail loans are going to allow you to do that low down payment around the 3% of the purchase price to 5% of the purchase price. So it's probably not as much as you're thinking. And if you're currently not saving money, or you don't have anything already saved, you can still stack up this money that you need over the course of a year or two, depending on what your skills are. And today we're going to talk a few different ways on what your options are as far as making some extra money or cutting back in different areas in your life. Now, sure, it's nice to have that 20% down so you have a bunch of equity in your house, and then you're also not having to pay the private mortgage insurance on top of it. But in reality, if you do that lower down payment and you're paying that extra insurance every single month, it's not that big of a cost to you. Now, the one thing that might pose to be an issue is where your location is. So that is something that's not as controllable. So the housing prices might not be as controllable where you're located, but if you move somewhere else, like say Cleveland, where I'm located, the houses are incredibly affordable, and getting that down payment for those is pretty easy to do. And building that money in order to get the down payment for the house is not a terrible task to do. So jumping into the first thing that you can do in order to stack a little bit of money on the side is, if you've got a significant other and you guys are planning on getting married, or you have already gotten married, something that you can build into your registry when you're setting it up for people to get you gifts is set up separate subsections that allow people to just donate money to you rather than buy you a gift. So like for me, in my instance, is we added a separate subsection saying this is our honeymoon fund, this is a donation fund, and another one that you can add in there is a new home fund. And you can tell people in there what your goal is and let them know that you are trying to buy a house in the near future, so that way you can start up your family. Or if you don't have plans of starting a family, you guys at least need a place to live. And your wedding registry is the perfect spot to do that, because people are wanting to help you out at this point in your life. You're just getting started, you're getting your feet on the ground, and you'd be surprised at how willing people are to contribute money towards that, rather than just getting you an object that will go bad over time. If you're not going to be getting married anytime soon, another thing that you can focus on is doing a side hustle. And if you know me or anything that I've done in the past, I have tried all of the side hustles on the face of this planet, I feel like, and they all work to a point. Any additional money that you're able to gain is going to be super helpful. Now, some of the ones that are most popular right now are going to include anything from pet walking to pet sitting. You've got babysitting, you've got house sitting. Now, there are certain apps out there that you can use to qualify yourself and put your services out there for people to use, or you can just try and spread it by word of mouth and just let people know that you are open to taking on some extra work and that you're happy to help them in any way that they need. Another thing in that side hustle category is pick up a second job, whether it be waiting tables or tossing boxes onto a truck at UPS. A lot of those types of jobs are asking for part-time work right now, so it's an easy way to make some good money. And also, if you're throwing at UPS, there are some good benefits that can come along with it as well. If you're the handy type or more technologically inclined, you're able to do handmade crafts or any sort of digital products that you can sell online. Those come in super handy, because that one is almost passive, especially if you do a digital product that you don't even have to make yourself. Now, the problem with side hustles is that if you don't put a lot of time towards it, it's not going to really grow. So it's going to stay exactly that, and you probably will get that little boost of income, but it's not going to turn into anything extraordinary unless you make it your full-time job. So make sure when you're assessing this, take what you're doing on the side and compare it to if you were working overtime at your regular job, and that will give you a pretty good comparison on what's worth it and what's not. Now, something that might contribute to making your life a little bit easier as far as building that down payment is going to be number 3 on the list, and that is going to be cutting your car expenses. Now, maybe you have a lifted truck that has a monthly payment on it, and it's a gas guzzler, so you're spending $300 a month on gas. I know it sucks, but if you've got any sort of equity in the car, you could sell it and take that equity and throw it towards your down payment and get a car that is a little bit better on gas. Because let's face it, if you just try to sell your car and then only do Uber or catch rides or ride your bike to work, it's going to make your life a lot harder. At least in Cleveland where I live, I know there's zero chance of me being able to do any of that, just because I travel around the city so much and the suburbs are so close to downtown that it's really not worth not having a car. If you live in an area where you don't need a car, or maybe you work from home, maybe that will work out in your lifestyle, so that could be worth doing. But before you go make any rash decisions as far as getting rid of your car, definitely weigh the pros and cons against each other, because in a lot of cases, it's not going to be worth totally getting rid of. You're going to need a replacement for it. Number 5 on the list for making it a lot easier for yourself if you're trying to save for a down payment, that is going to be pay off whatever debt you possibly can as fast as you can. Now, if you're a Dave Ramsey lover like I am, I'm actually one of his Ramsey trusted realtors in the Cleveland area. There's a lot of truth to this point, and it's arguably the most important point on this whole list, and that is paying off your debt. Now, I was just talking with my lender friend the other day, and he mentioned that every $100 of income per month that you get a year is going to add $5,000 to your buying power. So if your car is sitting at that average payment that most people are making at $500 a month, just by getting rid of that payment alone is going to increase your buying power by $25,000. And honestly, that might not sound like much, but in the Cleveland area, that could be the difference between a location that you want to be in and a location that's a little bit less desirable. So maybe you've got a car and student loans. That savings of $1,500 a month could result in hundreds of thousands of dollars of buying power. Now, me personally, I'm on baby step 2 right now, but I'm selling one of my rental properties, and once I get rid of that, it is going to catapult me onto baby step number 4, 5, and 6. And from there, I'm pretty much only going to be focused on paying down my house. So if you're doing those side hustles, it may be worth just paying down your debt and getting rid of those monthly payments if possible. Selling that car, cash in on that equity, get the $2,000 car like Dave Ramsey says, drive it for a little while, and then pay down as many of your loans as possible, and that is going to help you out immensely. Next on our list is going to be going out to those thrifters, and that is a perfect spot to go and capitalize. Buying used clothes and not spending any money on new is going to save you a ton, because you can go get t-shirts for a couple bucks, you can get pants for a couple bucks. It still gives you your shopping fix, but the thing on top of it is if you just pull up eBay and look up whatever clothing item that you're looking at, you have the opportunity to buy it for a couple bucks, flip it on Poshmark, eBay, or Depop, and you can potentially make like $15 to $20 per shirt. I've done it with a few of them. I don't really like looking through the clothes at the clothing store, but there is a lot of opportunity there, and every time I'm at the thrift store, I always see people digging through and looking up and seeing what shirts are worth. So if you're able to find 10 shirts over the course of a few different store visits, that's a lot of money that you could potentially add to your down payment help. Number 6 on our list is going to go for the furniture flippers. Now, I'm sure you've seen videos of it everywhere. This also works. You can find chairs and couches on Facebook Marketplace for a really cheap price because someone's moving out of town and they need it gone today. As long as you've got a place to store it, you can flip that for some pretty good money as well. I've picked up couches in the past for $500 that were like brand new and sold them the next day for $750 to $1,000. It's definitely doable, but it takes up a lot more space. So as long as you have a garage wherever you're living, or a lot of people suggest getting a rental storage unit, you can make a ton of money doing this kind of thing. Now, something that I did find when I was doing the furniture flipping was that I did not have any value in restoring or refinishing or reupholstering furniture. The only thing that really made me money was getting a couch, scrubbing it down with one of the Bissell cleaners, and then reposting it for sale. Every time I tried to revamp a dresser, I only made like $100, and I had a ton of effort that I put into it, many hours of work that resulted in it not being worth my process at all. But on the flip side to the revamping point, I have a lot of friends who do make some pretty good money by restoring furniture. Maybe I just didn't have the right knack for it, but that's just something that you can keep in mind if you're going to do it. Always grab that easy buck over spending a lot of time on a project. Number 7 on the list goes back out to the thrifters, but it's not just for clothes, it's for actual items. Now, me personally, I have a ton of fun doing this. You can see the CRT TV behind me. I've got some old iPods and stuff on my shelves back there. I really like the retro games and retro scene. Since I have a big interest in all of those things, it makes it a lot easier for me to want to look for deals for them and then resell what I don't want on eBay. So pretty much my whole collection that I've built for free. Everything that I have is probably worth around $2 grand, and all I did was buy boxes of old games and sell the stuff that I don't want, or some of the stuff that was more valuable, and then I would keep the rest. Another thing that you can do if you need to buy something, you can go on local no-buy pages and ask people if they have it. Do not go in there and ask for something that you plan on selling it on the back end, because that is just not a good thing to do, and that's not why those pages were made. If you want to flip free stuff, you can keep an eye on Craigslist and Facebook and just take whatever free stuff is on there and then sell it. Because if people find out that you're flipping stuff from the no-buy groups on Facebook, you could get kicked out of them. And on top of that, it just ruins it for everyone. Number 8 on the list as far as building that down payment for a home is going to be avoiding buying things that you do not absolutely need. Now, everyone struggles with it in America. We're in a consumerist society that is constantly being marketed to, and the marketing makes it feel like you need that product right then and there. So it's incredibly hard to overcome, but once you start to understand how the advertising works, you start to become a little bit disgusted by it. At least I know I have been. So by doing research on that advertising, it kind of makes my life a little bit easier, because I know how they work and I know what mind games they're trying to play. So as hard as it is to not buy things immediately, if something pops up on your feed or on Amazon, put it in your cart and do not let yourself buy it until a particular day of the week. This is just a little hack that I've heard, but every week me and my wife will add products to our cart on Amazon, and then by the end of the week on Sunday, if we still need that stuff, we'll order it. If we don't need it, a lot of the times the rush of wanting it passes and we'll just add it to our wish list, or we'll just delete it entirely. Number 9 on the list is going back towards the saving method, and that is going to be cash stuffing. If it's not in your bank account, you are going to have a lot harder time spending it. And what I mean by cash stuffing is just taking a few different envelopes and take the income that you get every single month and add it to each envelope as necessary. So maybe you spend $200 a month on food. Maybe you spend $150 on gas. Fill those envelopes with cash and use those specific envelopes for that thing. That way you have the ability to add a savings envelope and put that money somewhere safe. That way you're not tempted to use it. Another thing you can do is save your credit card rewards. Now, me personally, I am okay with using credit cards. I know Dave Ramsey is not a huge fan of credit cards, but I am the person who is able to pay them off every single month. So what I do is, once I get a bunch of points racked up, instead of using it on a lavish vacation, I will take those points and either get a Home Depot credit card or maybe a Walmart credit card for the stores that I shop at, and I will use that money for my groceries. So that saves me like $300 a month. It's ridiculous. A lot of people don't know that you can use your credit card points on just gift cards to different stores. Now, don't go buying random stuff that you don't need, because that totally defeats the purpose. But when you're trying to save for a down payment, that $300 grocery bill for a month is going to save you a ton of money and contribute a good amount towards your saving. Number 11 on the list goes along with the travel rewards points, and it's specifically related travel. Just hold off on traveling if you can. Don't go to the wedding that's going to cost you a couple $1,000s that you don't have an expendable income, because that is something that is setting you back from your goals and could potentially be putting you further in debt. If you do want to travel, definitely go in a way that is going to make it cheaper for you. Maybe go to a place that you can drive to and camp out at, because camping is notoriously cheaper than getting an Airbnb for a few days. The other thing that you can do is copy what me and my friends do. We all go on big trips where it's going to cost each person maybe $1,000 for the full trip, but we get 7 days of hiking in, and we stay in Airbnbs every night. We just make sure that they can house us all. But if you're careful with it and do it on a budget, you can go to these national parks, which are free to enter in most cases. Sometimes you need a park pass, which costs like $50 for the year, I think. And these are some of the most amazing scenes that you're gonna see within the United States. They were designated as national parks for a reason. So go visit those if you have to go on some sort of travel. It's a really cheap way to do, and it's a great way to get closer with your friends as well. There's a crazy statistic where 41% of the people who are saving for a home cut travel out of their expenses, because that is thousands of dollars that the person is saving when they're getting ready to buy a house. And that's a lot better than making a couple $100 here and a couple $100 there with a side hustle. The next thing on the list for building your down payment savings is going to be using an actual savings account or a money market account. Just set it so that savings account automatically draws a certain amount of money away from your bank account every single month, and do not look at the other account. When it's sitting there in that high interest savings account, you're going to be making 4 to 5% on that money that is just sitting there, depending on how much is in there. Honestly, it's probably not going to be a huge savings, but the fact that you are not going to have quick access to it to be able to spend on something is going to be a lifesaver in the event of saving for the down payment. The other nice part about it is with building the interest, you're going to get a little bit of additional money. That way it's just not sitting stagnant in your bank account, not building any additional wealth. Honestly, I don't know a whole lot about the high interest savings account, so if you have a financial advisor, you can go ask them more questions, or if you are going to do more research, definitely look into multiple companies before you store your money with them. One last tip that you can do to save some money to put towards your down payment of your home is going to be downsize your living. You might be living in that trendy walkable area that costs a lot of money in rent, where you can move to a more suburban or a more rural area and save a significant amount of money on your rent. Like in the greater Cleveland area, if you're in Tremont, Lakewood, or even Ohio City, you're probably going to be spending around like $2,000 to $2,500 on rent, unless it's a really small apartment or if you have a roommate. Sure, it's nice to live in those trendy areas that you can walk to all the bars and the restaurants and stores, but there's a pretty good chance that it's beating down your bank account pretty hard. So just by moving to a suburb around here, you can get a 3-bedroom house for $1,500 a month. And then if you can pick up a roommate to cover half of that, that is going to save you so much money every single month that you can contribute towards your eventual goal of getting a house. Now there's a million other ways that you can take advantage of making more money, but these are just some of my favorites and some of the most popular ones that are going around right now. I hope this video helped you out in some way. If you're thinking about moving to the Cleveland area, definitely reach out to me because I'll be able to make your life a lot easier. I help a lot of people move over here every single year. But with all that being said, I'm going to leave the video there. Make sure you like and subscribe, but I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.